Day on this Monday. Welcome in. This is Three Man Front on Jocks. So much to get into. Disappointing weekend for the Alabama Crimson Tide. Had it in front of them. A victory over Oklahoma over the weekend would have more than certainly punched their ticket not only to Atlanta, but also the college football playoffs. So what happens now? We'll talk to Nick Kelly coming up in about 15 minutes from now. We'll get his feelings on what took place, what lies in front of them now as they got the Iron Bowl coming up, which Landrum, that has a completely different turn now in regards to if you're a television executive, you're like, man, we got to put this on in a really good spot.
Yeah, for sure, because there's a lot more to play for than just state bragging rights when it comes to the college football playoff and Alabama and what DJ Durkin and Auburn could be playing for, which it was pride all along, but then with the extra incentive of knowing that your rival from across the state, you can keep them from getting into the postseason. Yeah, it looks different. Even more now, and if I'm a TV exec, I'm loving it.
Oh, the storylines will go on for days and days and days. But, you know, when you have an opportunity, when you outgain your opponent, you have more first downs than your opponent, you have more touchdowns than your opponent, you have more time of possession than your opponent, more than not, you're going to win that game unless you're Alabama against Oklahoma.
Well, or unless you make mistakes and those mistakes are capitalized on at perfect moments and you got an advantageous, opportunistic team on the other side. And that's what happened. But you're right, Pat. You look at it and you take away the turnovers and not knowing how any sequence of the game went, you think, well, Alabama, and especially they're playing at home, they won this football game. But not the case. Those mistakes. Whew.
Well, the 16 turnovers that Alabama had forced going into the game, Oklahoma had only forced 7. And you think about their last game against Tennessee when they forced 3. So they only had 4 before their last 2 games.
Mm-hmm.
Talking about Oklahoma as a team. And so what they were able to do against Alabama, special teams was atrocious for Alabama. That is something all season long. We've kind of made some jokes about it. But, you know, it's going to get to a point in time when it's going to rear its head, and it showed up on Saturday at the worst opportune time.
Well, and that Oklahoma offense, that's an offense that you want to make. You want to put them deep inside of their own territory and make them earn it. And that was the recipe, and I'm sure that's what Kane Womack and probably Kalen DeBoer were thinking. Let's make them earn it. But a big punt return and then a short field, a pick six, all the things that combined, it was the perfect setup and execution by Oklahoma, and could not have been much worse for Alabama for when they did it at those times in the football game.
No, it was. It was the worst opportune time, and goes back to even at the end of the first half when you had the bad kick or the block or whatever you want to say in that whole sequence. That was just terrible. But, you know, Alabama, for everything that happened up until that point in the fourth quarter, they had it right in front of them to try to win the game. You only managed 40 yards of total offense in the fourth quarter, 40 yards for the entire quarter. And the longest drive that Oklahoma had all game was 41 yards. So the Alabama defense did its part. It was the fact that Ty Simpson, again, was not sharp. He missed a lot of wide open passes, just was not sharp. And once again, that internal clock, when you get to this point of the season, you have got to be able to throw that thing away. You cannot just stand there and stand there and stand there. And ended up biting him again. I mean, it's become a fumble problem with Ty Simpson in the pocket. So
5 games in a row.
It's been really bad for him. And so, but once again, Alabama had every opportunity right in front of them in the fourth quarter. And, you know, to see them wilt like that, very disheartening, especially if you're Kalen DeBoer and the Alabama fans that expected a lot more.
Well, and then you had the 4th down and 2, and you saw that Alabama got creative with running the ball, and I thought that was a well-designed play. It was a play that went for 2 yards, but ultimately it moved the sticks. And at that point, I thought, all right, well, this is set up great for Alabama. That was Oklahoma's chance to end it, but then you saw several plays after that where wasn't the case. Ty Simpson was not sharp when they needed him to be sharp.
No, and go back to the defense. I mean, Alabama's defense, not that you're playing an Oklahoma team that reminded you of Kyler Murray when he was quarterback of the Oklahoma Sooners many years ago when Alabama played them in the college football playoff, but they beat Alabama with only 212 yards of total offense. That's the fewest yards by an Oklahoma team to win a game in 24 seasons. 24 years since they have that few of yards offensively and you beat an opponent. That says what all you got to say in regards to Alabama giving them short field, not playing good on special teams. Bama did enough offensively. I mean, with 406 total yards. That was the second most productive day for an Alabama offense this whole entire season in SEC play. So just those 3 turnovers, man, just caused all sorts of chaos.
Yeah, and now if you're Kalen DeBoer, the disappointment of that, you got Eastern Illinois. Go through not the motions, but you can kind of go through the motions, and you prepare for an opponent in 2 weeks that probably looks a lot different now, Conrad, than maybe it did at one point.
Yeah, certainly so. I mean, I guess the good thing, right, is after this loss to Oklahoma, you still, as far as we believe, control your own destiny, right? You go and win these next 2 games, and you're still going to have an opportunity to compete for a college football playoff. But, yeah, it's hard to look at that game and walk away. And, you know, when I'm walking out of the stadium, the prevailing sentiment I heard from, you know, the other fans was, you know, we were the better team, but how do we lose that football game? And it's because you turned the ball over 3 times, and it was at inopportune times. And, you know, even going to the final drive of the game, right? You had the ball with 7 minutes and change left to go win the game. How did you only get 1 drive out of the last 7 minutes of the game? It was a very bizarre mishandling, I thought, of that final possession for Alabama. Of course, Ty Simpson getting the sack and that knee going down really, really hurt them, setting them up with a 2nd and 21, I think it was. But yeah, it's just a bizarre game for Alabama. And, you know, again, we talked about with Tyler McComas last week. That was really the one area you looked at for this game and said, if Oklahoma's going to win, it's going to be because they find a way to create turnovers, and not going to win many games when you lose that one 3-0.
But even with the sack that he took, then wasn't it the next play where he was able to make up most of those yards?
Yeah,
where you got 16, and then you had 4th down and 6. But even on that throw to the short side of the field, if he completes that, is that even a first down?
Probably wasn't a first
Probably
down.
wasn't a first down.
Again, it was a weird. When you needed a miracle play call, and that's kind of what you got, I think that maybe didn't sit well with people, but you had plenty of opportunities to win the game, and you threw up over yourself just about every time. I mean, even the fumble, right? You're up 21-20 at that point, driving the ball down the field. If you go score a touchdown there, you probably win the game because Oklahoma couldn't do anything offensively for most of the night, and you fumble the ball, and you lose the game.
All right, so the Sooners, the last back-to-back years, they have forced 6 turnovers against Alabama, which turned into 30 of the 45 points that they've scored against Alabama the last 2 seasons. So Bama 0-2 since they have entered the Southeastern Conference. Kalen DeBoer now 19-4 across 23 career games against AP opponents. He is now 20-8 in one-score games, and the 17-game Bryant-Denny home winning streak has been snapped. Now, so what's up for Bama in the SEC championship game? Now, it's not as simple as A&M and Bama winning, Bama going to the SEC championship game. That there's some more things that have to happen for Alabama to get to Atlanta. Kentucky, Arkansas, and Florida. If any combination of 2 of those 3 teams win, then that causes a problem with Alabama's schedule and the winning percentage. So they would not make it to the SEC championship game if 2 of those 3 actually win in their final games.
And that would be Kentucky beating Vanderbilt, Florida beating Tennessee, Arkansas beating Missouri.
Texas.
Or Texas, yeah.
Or Texas.
2
or
of those
Missouri. So, yeah. So there's some scenarios there that Alabama would not make the SEC championship game. But more than likely, if A&M and Bama win, then it's Texas A&M against Bama because Alabama would have the head-to-head against Georgia. Georgia would have the head-to-head against Ole Miss. And Oklahoma obviously finishes with a 6-2 conference record. Now, if A&M wins, Bama loses, it's Texas A&M and Georgia. And once again, it goes to the fact that Georgia has the tiebreaker over Ole Miss being 7-1. Oklahoma would be 4th in the league because they would be 6-2, and they would have the tiebreaker over Alabama, and Alabama would finish 5th in the SEC. Now, if A&M and Bama both lose, then it's Georgia and Ole Miss playing for the Southeastern Conference Championship. Georgia would be above Ole Miss, obviously head-to-head. Ole Miss would be over Texas A&M because of the winning percentage of everybody else in the SEC of who they played.
Okay, and so outside of, and there's a lot to go through, but if we project out and go college football playoff, and Alabama lost to Auburn, would that potentially vault, considering they win all of their games, a Vanderbilt into the college football playoff?
Probably so.
As one of those outside teams looking in right now. What are they right now, 12?
I mean, based on all of
13,
ESPN's
12.
projections, they don't even have, they're not even like 18% chance of making the college football playoff.
Which is crazy. They could go 10-2 and not make the playoff in
Yeah.
the SEC.
I mean, you've got A&M at 99%, Georgia 99%, Ole Miss 89%, Alabama's 84%. Now that took a tumble. Bama was at 96%
Right.
before the Oklahoma game. They fell to 84%. Oklahoma's at 49%. Texas is at 20%. So I mean, there's a lot of teams in front of Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt's not going to the college football playoff. That's not happening.
Kind of crazy that I guess Texas has the head-to-head, but they have one more loss than Vanderbilt.
Well, their strength of schedule is better than Vanderbilt's.
Yeah.
So
I was just playing out another SEC team taking the spot of Alabama if they weren't in there.
Well, it kind of comes down to this. If Bama beats Auburn, but let's say they lose the SEC championship game, Bama still has a 96% chance of making the college football playoff, even if they lose in the SEC title game. But if Auburn beats Alabama, Alabama then has a 43% chance of making the college football playoff.
They're not making it.
Now, you made the statement, Conrad, and you can retract it if you want, but you said if Alabama lost to Oklahoma, they're not beating Auburn.
Yeah, I don't feel as bad about that last week as I did, and part of it is, again, because of the way they lost to I assume losing to Oklahoma, you would have had a really, really poor performance. Now, you did turnover-wise, but outside of that, you look at the game and you go, they actually played one of their better games of the year minus the 3 turnovers. It's going to be a really, really tough spot. We'll see where we are a week from now, but I mean, I wouldn't like Alabama to win that game by more than a touchdown, right? Like, I mean, that's going to be a brutal game that I know they have Mercer to prepare for, but let's not kid ourselves. Auburn will spend 3 weeks preparing for that game with an opportunity to ruin Alabama's season. That's a tough spot to be in, and Kalen DeBoer is about to be under the most pressure he's ever been in his entire life as a college football coach.
Well, I mean, it just comes down to this. I mean, they could have made it easier on themselves by simply winning at home, a place where they have dominated the opposition for about 18 years now. But I go back to something that Greg McElroy said this morning on Mac and Cube, and again, y'all might not remember this, but I remember it distinctly. Back in 2009, there's only 2 teams that made the college football playoff. That was the old BCS. And Alabama was undefeated, and they had to go to Auburn, and they had to win in a very difficult place. And if Alabama would have lost to Auburn, they would not have gone to the BCS or played for the national championship. So the same scenario, like if Alabama's good enough, then they should be able to go down there and take care of business and win. If not, then they have no business being in the college football playoff to begin with. But the pressure was as much for an undefeated Alabama team back in 2009, more so than an Alabama team that lost to woeful Florida State, and you lose at home by causing 3 turnovers.
And then, if you remember, wasn't it 2013 where the winner of the Iron Bowl would probably
the kick 6 and Auburn went to the national championship. Go back 2 years ago.
A lot on the line on that one, and Auburn won the game.
Go back 2 years ago. If the Gravedigger play doesn't happen, even if Alabama beats Georgia, Florida State's going to the playoff, not Alabama.
Absolutely.
I mean, that literally came down to the final play of the game, essentially, and you found a way to win. So it's not uncharted territory. Alabama's been here a lot, but
if you're good enough, you should be able to go beat one of the worst Auburn teams in a long time.
Yeah, you're the better team.
Period.
You should win.
If you lose, then you have no business being in the college football playoff. When we come back, Nick Kelly, AL.com, will join us, get his feelings on where the Tide stands now moving forward. This is 3-Man Front on Jocks. It is at 10:18. Welcome back. This is Reaction Money on Jocks, 1-800-239-WJOX. We will talk to Nick Kelly from AL.com coming up momentarily. You know, as the weather turns, now's the time to get your mowers and tractors serviced for the end of the season, and Artec Tractor is the place to do it. They're your certified Mahindra servicing dealer, and just in time for hunting season, their hunter's package includes a Mahindra 1635 with loader, trailer, bush hog, tiller, and spreader, all for $0 down and $450 per month. Artec has a full line of tractors as well as heavy construction equipment for those big jobs just north of Jasper on Highway 5 or online at artectractor.com. So Bama loses a tough one over the weekend to Oklahoma. That now breathes life for the Oklahoma Sooners in the college football playoff. A loss in Tuscaloosa over the weekend, that certainly would have doomed their chances of going to the college football playoff. Our friend Heather Dinich from ESPN, ESPN.com. It's interesting. She still has Bama in the college football playoff, but the most interesting note of what she had to say, it was that their first round matchup would be on the road against another SEC opponent. Bama would be a 9 seed. They would play the 8 seed Oklahoma.
Oh,
It's a little rematch.
yeah.
From Bryant-Denny Stadium, according to Heather Dinich, if things started this weekend. Let's go now to the Higginbotham Hotline. Nick Kelly joins us from AL.com. Nick, let's go back to Saturday at Bryant-Denny Stadium. I know the turnovers was a shocking result, which led to an Oklahoma win, but what else surprised you the most? Not just the turnovers that Alabama sustained, but just overall how that game played out.
I'll throw you a curveball here, and I'll say the running game actually was better than I expected it to be. And I know it sounds funny because it wasn't all that great, but for the first time in forever, we saw some signs of life from Alabama's running game, and that's a really good Oklahoma front. So the fact that Alabama did what they were able to do, considering, I actually think it was a positive step forward, but I think that obviously gets overlooked because of how the turnovers went.
Obviously, the mistakes are there, and they're the ones that we highlight and we point to of reasons why Alabama lost the game. But outside of those turnovers, where were you underwhelmed with Alabama?
Yeah, I would say it's a good question. I think I could go with the fourth down play at the end. I figured they could have had something better there. So that was underwhelming to me. I would also say the special teams obviously was underwhelming, but unfortunately not surprising at the same time that at this point, Connor Tulty, you just don't know what you're going to get. It's a bit of a mixed bag kind of thing. So not surprising, but certainly underwhelming.
Okay, so the outcome of the game, obviously Alabama could have put themselves in a really good spot moving forward for potentially Atlanta. College football playoff was probably going ahead and check that box as well. So here we are on the Monday after the upset loss to Oklahoma. Where do you believe, Nick Kelly, this team currently is and what it's going to look like over the next couple of weeks?
I think they're in a fine spot. Obviously, yeah, it's tough when you lose a game. I think fans are still learning that a loss does not doom you like it used to. But the fact that they should have won that game and could have won that game, I think is extra frustrating if you're an Alabama fan. So it's just an interesting time because I don't know what you guys think, but at least the Auburn neighbors and people I know, the glaze over their eyes kind of was shaken off, and now they're awake and the blood is in the water. And I think for the first time in a while, there's some real energy from Auburn fans, and I'm sure the players and coaches. Because now they have something real serious to play for, and I think it's going to create quite the environment at Jordan-Hare.
Nick Kelly joining us here on Three Man Front, recapping the loss to Oklahoma, looking ahead to the Iron Bowl coming up in a couple of weeks. Let's just play it out. Let's go doomsday for Alabama. They lose there at Jordan-Hare Stadium. They finish 9-3. They miss out on the college football playoff. What kind of conversations are going on in Tuscaloosa at that point? I'm not throwing out anything crazy, suggesting anything. I'm just asking you, where could you see those conversations going?
Yeah, I mean, obviously fans are going to be upset. And to me, you have to view the season as a failure because last year kind of was playoff or bust, but this year especially it felt playoff or bust. And I talked about it with you guys over the summer. Like, if Kalen DeBoer does not make the playoff with basically 24 chances, if you will, or 24 spots that Alabama was not included in, yeah, that's very concerning. And I don't think that means that you need to fire him, but his seat becomes very hot. And I think that year three, that, yeah, become super important for Kalen to make the playoff, for Alabama to do it, because that's the thing. At a certain point, at a place in Alabama, that has such high expectations, if you can't make the 12-team field, that's just not okay. It's not okay. And I'm not being, I think, unrealistic. I think it's very much so not okay if Alabama does not make both of the first two playoffs, and that would increase the pressure, I think, tenfold heading into year three.
I know about 3 weeks ago, there were some rumors that Penn State potentially were interested in Kalen DeBoer. And many of us kind of laughed it off when we saw his name show up in certain stories out of Happy Valley. Now that story might not be as laughable. All indications are Kalen DeBoer and his family are very happy in Tuscaloosa. But if this season did not go or end the way that we all thought it was going to end about 3 weeks ago, the way this Alabama team was rolling, do you think that Kalen DeBoer and his representation would look for an off-ramp somewhere?
It's possible. I'm not going to rule it out. I mean, to me, that is more likely than Kalen DeBoer getting fired, if whether it be this year or another year, because Kalen's a good coach. Like, I think that people need to appreciate and realize just how much this staff is doing right now with this team. Like, they have talent, but they're finding ways to make up for areas where they don't have much talent or where they are struggling player-wise. So Kalen's a good coach. Like there would be another job that would want him. I mean, just in the same way that I'm sure Penn State would love to have Kalen DeBoer right now. So, yeah, I think you can't rule off the off-ramp scenario, but until we get there, I'm not ready to essentially diagnose, here's the step-by-step, here's what happens. Because I know that obviously Jordan-Hare is haunted, all those things, but Alabama should win that game. And it'll probably be close, but I think if Alabama does what it's capable of doing, it's going to make the playoff.
What is this Alabama team lacking? You mentioned some of those areas, but is it an intangible? Is it something tangible? Is it a little bit of both? Because we get Alabama fans that text in. I'll just give you an example. This team is soft. That kind of going with that narrative. I'm not suggesting that, but what are the intangibles you think that maybe is missing from this team that we've seen from Alabama in the past? Of course, when Nick Saban was there.
See, I couldn't disagree more with the idea the intangibles are off because, and I'll prove it to you. For example, this game, Alabama has 3 turnovers, and they lose by 2. A year ago, in that Oklahoma game, they had, how many turnovers did they have? They have 2 or 3? I mean, they had at least 2. And Alabama lost by 21. Like, this team has the intangible of resolve. Like they don't pack it up the minute that things go wrong. So like, this team has grit. Now, I think some fans, and I get it, that, like, the days of just smash mouth football and extra tough. I mean, Kirby Smart talked about that there's a lot of players these days in college football that just want to check and don't want to be tough necessarily. Or, yeah, I'm paraphrasing, but that was kind of the essence of what he said. So, like, I don't think you're going to see smash mouth football across the board, in part because of the rules, but I really don't think that this team is lacking intangibles so much as they just maybe don't have the same talent that Alabama fans are accustomed to at certain spots, because it's hard to do that now. Like, I don't mean to give that whole history of college football right now, but it's like the NFL. Like, if you have talent at one spot, you might not have as much talent at another. So I think Alabama has some spots where it doesn't have as elite of talent. I think you could look at running back as one that stands out, maybe offensive line, defensive line, that I think they're lacking, and that you see that come up at times and you see some issues. So to me, it is more tangible than it is intangible.
Let's talk about Ty Simpson, Nick, because he's become a turnover machine over the course of the last few games. He did have the interception. His interception numbers don't look bad, but it's the fact that he continues to hold onto the ball long enough in the pocket to cause the opposition to get penetration and to cause these fumbles that have put Alabama in some very difficult situations. What have you seen with Ty Simpson, in your opinion, and what's going on that front?
Yeah, the idea he's got a turnover problem, I guess I would challenge. I think it's more of a fumble problem. It's more of a pocket problem. Of he's got to get rid of the ball. I mean, Kalen DeBoer said as much after the game that Ty is trying to do too much, and I mean, Kalen didn't say that, but I'm saying that. That I think at times you just got to let the play another play, and that means throwing away the ball at times. That means taking a sack. That means just doing things that don't beat you. So to me, they've got to keep coaching him. He's capable of doing it, but yeah, it has been a problem. And even Oklahoma players talked about after the game that they knew that Ty Simpson was vulnerable in the pocket and they could get the ball from him. So he's got to work on that. And I'm curious today, on the way to Kalen DeBoer's press conference to see what they can maybe do to work on that in practice, because they work ball security drills, but maybe they can do something else to help him with that.
Nick, in regards to the mood of the team, I know it was a loss and people are not going to be in the best of moods afterwards, but just based on the people that you talked to, players, and being around some of the coaches at Kalen DeBoer, what do you think the message is going to be today when you get an opportunity to see folks?
I think it's just a case of flush it and move on. I mean, Kalen DeBoer loves to use that phrase at times, and I do really think it's important that they just say, hey, look, played well, but those turnovers cost you. So, all right, didn't work. Move on. Like, they can't dwell on it. I mean, you'll hear it's a cliche, but everything's still in front of them because it is. I mean, it really is. They can still make the playoff. They can still make the championship game for the conference. So, yeah, they really have to move on and really take what was an uncharacteristic day from a turnover perspective. Like, it feels like there's been more, but Alabama was leading the SEC in fewest turnovers per game heading into that game. So they just need to get back to what they're doing and see if they can kind of recreate what they're doing during that really impressive stretch in October.
That is Nick Kelly. You can follow his work at AL.com. Nick, appreciate you giving us a shout as you're on your way to cover the Kalen DeBoer press conference that we will carry live at 12 noon. Always great to catch up, Nick. Hope to see you soon.
Thanks so much, guys.
Appreciate it. That is Nick Kelly. Joined us on the Higginbotham Hotline. Higginbotham is your one-source solution for insurance, financial, and HR services. We will get to your phone calls. This is Reaction Monday. Also your text. This is Jocks. This is Three Man Front. It's 10:34 on this Reaction Monday. We've got calls coming in, texts as well. Love to hear from you on this Reaction Monday. Jeremy Bernard has just been named one of the 13 national semifinalists for the Biletnikoff Award for the nation's best receiver. I'm actually a voter for that, and I did vote for Jeremy Bernard.
That's a good vote.
So I'm glad to see that Jeremy Bernard will move on now to the next round of voting. So, so Jeremy Bernard, someone that kind of disappeared after the first half in that football game on Saturday.
And still was right up there at the top as far as receptions.
Yeah, him and Cuevas. Yeah, he got banged up at one point in the second half and kind of had to go off for a little bit. But good for him. He's had a fantastic season for Alabama, but I think we all know who's going to win that award.
Yeah, guy from Ohio State.
By the way, we did call it last week, brought it up that the tight end would play a vital role in this game against that Oklahoma defense. And
Cuevas has been the kind of like the unsung hero, I feel like, for this offense, because it feels like every time they need a play. I mean, you go back to the LSU game and
heck, go back to Wisconsin
the
last
little
year.
Trick play there. Yeah, I mean, he's been Mr. Reliable at times when they just need a first down.
So Jeremy Bernard, he was targeted 14 times in the game on Saturday. He only had 7 receptions. Cuevas was targeted 7 times, had 6 receptions. Daniel Hill targeted 5 times, 5 receptions. Isaiah Horton, 6 targets, 3 receptions. Ryan Williams targeted 5 times, 3 receptions. Brooks targeted twice, 2 receptions. I don't know, it was like Nick Kelly just brought it. It was weird, the flow of the game, and I know that you call based on what Oklahoma's given you and what you're trying to combat, but just what you've seen from this Alabama offense, it was just, to me, it was very disjointed, like what they were trying to do, especially in the passing game. Not a lot of passes deep. And
that's something Oklahoma takes away.
Granted, yes, but you got to stretch it somehow. I mean, you let the safeties come down and stop the run, and you got to do something. So, all right, let's get to your calls, 1-800-239-WJOX, as this Reaction Monday rolls on.
Let's go to Larry first. Hey, Larry, welcome in.
Hey, guys, I always enjoy the show. I called in this morning with the guys, and I just want to make this point again. The way Venables went into this game, without a shadow of a doubt, I believe he used enough mental ammunition to have those boys ready to play. And the way they attacked Simpson obviously was a key point in the game. But the one point I'd like to make, guys, is, and of course, this is just an opinion, we haven't seen nothing until we go to Jordan-Hare, guys. And they use the absolute blueprint of what Auburn's going to do to Bama in Jordan-Hare, and factor in the loudness and being on the road. That's what bothers me the most, because we beat – I don't know, guys. How many times has Alabama beat Auburn now in a row?
5.
5. Okay, 5 times. And that's what bothers me the most. And then the fact that Venables had his teams mentally prepared and to do the things that they did against Bama, it was pretty obvious. But the thing, though, is now, without a shadow of a doubt, Mr. DeBoer is going to find out what pressure is all about. That's all I want to say, guys. Love your show. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Larry. Yeah, Jordan-Hare, it's been crazy. Not going to compare it, but we know what the 1989 Iron Bowl looked like, and people who were there, they can describe it. Pat, there's been other times, Nick Saban used to say we knew we were walking into an expletive storm. That is going to be, I'm predicting, a monumental expletive storm.
Yeah, I can't wait to see what time. Now, granted, it's going to be wild no matter what time. They could kick off at 11 o'clock, and it would be a wild scene. But I'm very anxious to see where the television kickoff times are going to line up, because if that game is a 6 or a 6:45 kickoff inside Jordan-Hare Stadium, wow. You want to talk about electric. It's going to be electric anyway, even if it's at 2:30. But
if it's a 2:30 or a 6.
Yeah.
That place will be.
We all know it's not going to be 11 or 11:45, but
shaken. Let's continue with your phone calls. Hey, Bama Hater, how are you?
Hey, what's going on? I'm doing great these days. How about you guys?
We're doing fantastic.
Wonderful.
Hey, man, this is probably going to be the first time I call in and take up for Alabama. So I want you guys to listen up real close. Alabama lost the game Saturday because somebody down there, they scared of the wrong team for homecoming. I think they thought they were playing Eastern Illinois Saturday. That's the best I got for the taking up for Alabama. But let me talk to you guys for real, man. I heard one guy say Alabama is going to make the playoffs if they beat Auburn. That's not true because they can lose in the SEC championship game. And I've said it over and over and over, including my team, which, some of the listeners say I don't talk about, including Miami. No 3-loss team deserves a playoff spot. I don't care what their strength of schedule look like. 3 times out of 12, they couldn't cut it, and they shouldn't be a playoff team. That's my take on going to the playoffs. And what do you guys think Alabama chances is to beat Texas A&M if they get by Auburn?
I'm going to hold judgment on that because, when you fall behind by 27 points to as bad a team as South Carolina at home that you did, I know they came back and won the game. But if you look at the strength of schedule of who Texas A&M has not played in this conference, I'm going to hold judgment until I see how they do against Texas.
The best team they played in the SEC this year is Missouri.
Correct.
Bama hater or neutral field, I'd still make Bama a slight favorite. Slight.
Hey, I'm not shocked. You thought I was shocked at that? But man, listen, Alabama is going to have issues with whomever they play. Without a running game, you can't have your hopes up too high. And like I say, if you run across a team with above average DBs, what is Alabama going to do if you don't have a running game? They can't beat Ohio State with no running game.
Well, I'm not disagreeing with you there, but how did the lack of a running game put them in a position to beat one of the best defenses in America on Saturday? If Alabama had not turned the ball over, Alabama would have won that football game. And they didn't have a semblance of a running game. They outgained Oklahoma on the ground.
Hey, Pat, I understand what you're saying. But in the same sense, they still lost, and you guys keep treating week 1 like you work at Serve Pro, like it never even happened. They did this. What did they do against Florida State?
It did happen, but the same can be said about Notre Dame losing to a Miami team that is a weak opponent.
Pat,
you can go on and on about all this competition. This is the NFL. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you lost in week 1. You're not paying attention, Bama hater. You're listening to your own thoughts. You're not listening to the semblance of people that make sense. You have an agenda. You go on and on. You make no sense, sir. Sorry.
But Pat, what is your agenda? If you
I have no agenda.
Everything Alabama, but
there
you
is
defend
no agenda.
Alabama even when they lose.
Now, how am I defending Alabama? Alabama had 3 turnovers. They lost the game. They weren't the better team on Saturday. But your line about Alabama not having a running game is going to come back to get them. Is that why they lost the game Saturday, Bama hater? You're the expert here. You tell me, is that why Alabama lost Saturday? Because they didn't have a running game? Yes or no?
Pat, you're getting emotional.
No,
baby.
I'm not getting emotional because you're the one that's accusing me of something in which I did not do. So you, sir, answer the question. Did Alabama lose Saturday because they didn't have a running game? Yes or no?
Yeah, yes, they lost because they didn't have a running game because you can't set up the pass, genius.
No, because they kept fumbling the ball and the special teams sucked, Bama hater. Had
They
nothing
threw for like
to do with the running game.
350 yards.
But is that Oklahoma's fault that you guys turned the ball over?
Why do you keep saying you guys? I did not go to Alabama. I didn't play for Alabama. I cover Alabama, so I have no idea what you're talking about.
I didn't go to Miami either, but I'm a fan. You're a fan of Alabama, and you defend everything that they do, even when they lose.
How are we defending them? How has Pat or anybody on the show defended them? We spent the first 42 minutes.
We know.
Bama hater though. Listen to me. We spent the first 42 minutes playing out all the scenarios of how Alabama can miss out on the SEC championship or the college football playoff. We've talked about the deficiencies of this team. How in what way, shape, or form are we defending them?
Hey, Landrum, Bama can get to the playoffs, but they got to win against Auburn. They can't lose to Auburn and make the playoffs.
No, we agree with that.
Wholeheartedly agree with you on that.
100%.
Shouldn't be in the playoffs. No,
you're right. But we all know the committee will come up with something.
Not if they lose to Auburn. No, not if they lose to Auburn. That's not happening. That's not real, Bama.
It would have happened last year when they were the last team out of the playoff. It didn't happen. Yeah. They got left at home.
They were still in discussion, but it's all good, man. Miami and Alabama's in the same boat. We both have to win out to get to the playoffs. So whichever one does that, they'll be in the playoffs. Nothing else to be said about those two.
I agree. If Alabama wins out, they should be in the playoffs.
What about Miami?
Yeah, put them in.
Yeah, I like that. Lance, me and you, all right, buddy.
Happy Thanksgiving.
All right, man.
All right, man. See you.
People just don't like and I get it. It's hard to accept this. It's the reality that Alabama lost a game on Saturday and they still have an opportunity to make the playoff, which is a factual statement. And I understand a lot of people don't like that because they hate Alabama and want them to burn, and I get it. But that saying that they have a chance to make a playoff and laying out their path to a playoff, that's not defending Alabama. That's a factual statement about the rest of the season.
The only thing that I was defending the statement is that because it was an asinine statement that Alabama lost because they didn't have a running game Saturday.
Well, I brought up the 4th and 2, and that would have been the time where Oklahoma comes up with a stop, or the 4th and 1 when Alabama can't run the ball, and they were able to run the ball. That's not what you point to. You point to getting sacked, and then you have some underthrows with guys that were open coming back to the football.
If we're nitpicking, you don't miss a 36-yard field goal before halftime, you win that football game.
Yeah, there you go.
If we want to point fingers at specific
Nobody is
plays.
forgetting the fact that they lost to Florida State. And the reason why nobody has forgotten about it is because they have 2 losses.
Just so we can be clear, though, Alabama loses to Auburn.
It's over.
Okay.
It's over.
Pat, you agree?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's,
All right.
it's not even a remote conversation with anybody that has legitimacy in college football.
So my thing to Bama Hater would be stop playing this forward like we're going to be outside protesting that Alabama should be in the college football playoff with a loss to Auburn and finishing 9-3. We did the same thing last year, and none of us said that Alabama should have been in, right?
I still contend, and I know some people, based on what the college football playoff committee said last week, that if Alabama gets to the SEC championship game, and even if Alabama were to get blown out, who are you going to put into the college football playoff over a 3-loss Alabama team who took their 3rd loss, which would be 2 of their 3 losses were against a top 12 opponent, right?
Yep.
So who are you putting in from the Southeastern Conference above Alabama if Alabama were to get to the Atlanta championship game and lose?
Well, you're not going to put Vanderbilt in because they have the
They have the
head-to-head
head-to-head.
loss.
Correct.
Right.
You're not going to put, and I know I saw people politicking for a BYU or somebody of that ilk. BYU's beaten one team in the top 40 this year. You're not getting in the playoff just because you have one less loss than in Alabama. No, if you beat Auburn, you're going to the playoff.
Yeah, you'll be in.
You just have to win that one game.
You play in the toughest league in America, and you walk out of regular season with 1 conference loss. You are not going to not put them in the college football playoff.
And the way things are shaping up now, maybe something happens the last 2 weeks of the season. Alabama has the best win in the country. You have the best win over the highest ranked team currently playing football right now, and that's number 4 Georgia. It's the best win in the country.
We will continue on with your calls and texts. This is 3-Man Front on Jocks.
10:51, three-man front. We continue Reaction Monday. A lot of your reaction coming in on the text line. Jock's text line is 205-834-9450 or 800-239-WJOX. We got Kalen DeBoer's press conference coming up at noon. Let's go to Chris. He's in Irondale. Chris, how are you?
Hey, I'm good, fellas. Hey, y'all talked about a lot of scenarios. Hey, but this is where I'm at right now. Unless we win it all this year at Bama, we're going to end up with about 3 losses at the end of this season, after it's all said and done. Hey, as a fan base, where do we stand and how do we react? And let's just throw another scenario out. Somehow, God forbid, we lose the Iron Bowl. What's going to be the reaction of the fan base? Is it going to be like the Florida State loss? And do we keep Kalen DeBoer if we lose 3 games this year? Or are we going to end up being like with Brian Kelly and just be stuck with a 2 and 3 loss season every year? Because I really just am unsure if anything would change. And I hang up and listen to y'all fellas.
Thank you, Chris. We appreciate the phone call. Well, Conrad would be a great person to ask this question to, if he can put on his Bama hat, because he has been very objective about all of this. Answer his question. What do you think a lot of the sentiment would be from the Alabama fan base if Alabama was to lose the Iron Bowl?
I think a lot of the sentiment would be get him out of town. I do not subscribe to that. Look, I understand the frustration of it, and I think it's fair to say that if he loses the Iron Bowl, he's at Alabama next year, he would enter the season on the hottest seat of any coach in the country. I think that's a very fair thing to say, but yeah, I think the general sentiment would be it's time to move on. He can't win the big games, or he can't win in crunch time when it matters late in the season. And, like Nick Kelly said, right, it's hard to fathom that you could be set up, especially the way you were this year, and find yourself not making a 12-team college football playoff. It's a lot different than if there were 4 teams, right? I think that's a little easier to stomach at times. But with 12 teams, you can't even go 10-2 and put up a somewhat competitive performance in a championship game if you make it there for the SEC. So, yeah, I think a lot of people would want him gone, but I saw a lot of people blame him for the loss against Oklahoma. I don't think that loss is on him. He didn't fumble the ball twice. He didn't throw a pick 6. You look at everything outside the turnovers, that looked like a team that was pretty well prepared to go up against one of the best defenses in the country. But he's not the one holding on to the ball too long. He's not the one trying to make fancy moves on punt returns instead of holding on to the football. He's not holding the snap on extra points and field goal attempts.
But who's coaching those players?
And it's him, and he absolutely deserves to have some accountability for that. But I guess I would just – who are you going to get that's better than Kalen DeBoer?
But see, that's not the question. The question is, if he doesn't win, you can't think about, well, we can't do that because who are we going to go get? Because – a lot of people didn't want Kalen DeBoer to begin with when Nick Saban stepped down. So the question would be, would Greg Byrne be allowed to make another mistake? Because this will be listed as a mistake. This is no different than Scott Strickland hiring who he hired at Florida, and they don't go anywhere. I mean, this was Greg Byrne's hire.
Mm-hmm.
So
the biggest hire of his career.
Absolutely. So if everybody admits that it was a mistake, and Kalen DeBoer then looks at, okay, I need an off ramp somewhere. Is USC going to be open? Do I take UCLA just to get back on the West Coast? Do I go to Happy Valley? Whatever the case may be, then who's going to make that call in Tuscaloosa? I got a feeling that power vacuum that was not around during Nick Saban's tenure, it will be there, and they will decide who the next coach would be.
It's hard to imagine that, not that there would be a firing, but a 19-7 coach getting ousted. But
and it's like Nick said, think about it. The college football playoff expands to 24 spots, and Alabama does not get one of those spots in back-to-back years.